cartel mercilessly murdered husband and daughter of this weak woman. They were under the impression that this weak woman would not be able to do anything against them. They were wrong, as the love residing in her heart for her family made her perpetuate unimaginable egregious revenge plot against the cartel on that particular day. Welcome back to Paramount Recaps. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me.
Serve justice, Your Honor. I will.
The film kicks off in Los Angeles during a tense night scene where Riley North is grappling with a gangster in a car. She reminds him that he doesn't even know who she is before she takes him out with a bullet, dragging his body to the trunk of her car. Next, we see Riley hiding out in a rundown neighborhood where some local kids look up to her and eagerly wave as she pulls up in her van. Inside, she's got some medical supplies that she uses to patch up a leg wound while downing a drink. As she rummages through her stuff, a box of Girl Scout cookies falls out, triggering a 5-year flashback to when she was with her daughter, Carly. In the flashback, Riley and Carly are hanging out when they run into another mom, Peg, and her daughter. Peg confronts Riley, accusing her of encroaching on their turf, but Riley brushes her off. Peg can't let it go and throws insults before storming off. Carly wishes she could have retaliated, but Riley tells her to avoid being. Then we meet Chris, Carly's dad, who calls Riley. He's in a tough financial spot and needs some cash. Riley drops him off at his place as they plan to celebrate Carly's birthday that night, inviting a bunch of kids. Riley promises to leave work early to make it happen. However, at the bank where she works, her boss tells her she'll need to stay late because of some issues, but he'll make it worth her while with overtime pay. Chris gets a visit from his friend Mickey, who tempts him into participating in a robbery of a cartel, promising that this could change his life financially. As Riley heads home to Carly's birthday party, she finds her and Chris looking dejected because none of the kids showed up. Peg's party drew everyone away, leaving a nasty voicemail for them just to rub it in. Not wanting Carly to be sad, Riley suggests they go to the Christmas carnival instead. They leave, but Chris calls Mickey to say he's pulling out of the robbery plan because it's too dangerous. Meanwhile, a gang member watches them, reporting back to his boss, Diego Garcia, who orders a hit on Chris. Mickey ends up getting tortured by Diego for his plans, and we see that Riley and her family are blissfully unaware of the danger lurking as they enjoy the carnival. As they're getting ice cream, the gang members make their move. When Riley steps back to grab a napkin, she hears gunfire and quickly realizes her family is in trouble. She gets shot but manages to crawl to Chris and Carly, only to find them lifeless. The police arrive, and Riley is rushed away in an ambulance, where Detective Stan Carmichael starts piecing together the scene. Later, Stan tells Riley that they've caught some suspects, but they might get off if there's no solid evidence. He mentions that the whole situation ties back to Chris's plans to rob Diego, showing her some photo booth pics of their happy family, which brings back painful memories. When Riley identifies the gang members in a lineup, she recognizes all 3 by their tattoos. Stan's partner, Beltran, warns him to be cautious. The last detective who went after Diego didn't make it. While Riley packs up her family's belongings, an attorney named Henderson visits her, trying to bribe her to drop her testimony against the gang members he represents. Riley kicks him out, furious at the idea that she can't get justice for her family. When the time comes for Riley to testify, Henderson attempts to discredit her by questioning her mental state due to her medication, suggesting her memories aren't reliable. She seeks help from the district attorney, but Judge James Stevens rules against her, letting the killers walk free. Furious, Riley snaps and tries to attack the gang members, but the bailiff restrains her while they laugh at her desperation. As she's wheeled out, Stan hops in the ambulance with her. In a moment of sheer determination, Riley grabs an oxygen tank and whacks Stan with, escaping into the night. Fast forward to the present, and Stan is at a crime scene where he finds 3 bodies hanging upside down for Ferris wheel. These are the same gang members involved in Chris and Carly's deaths. The FBI alerts Stan about a woman who broke into a gun shop and stole firearms. They pull up her fingerprints, identifying her as Riley. Meanwhile, Riley prepares herself in her van, loading up on weapons and armor while gazing at a family photo before heading out. The FBI detective briefs Stan and Beltran, warning them about Riley being a suspect in recent cases. Riley pays a visit to Judge Stevens, tying him up after giving him a good beating. She nails his hands to the table, making it clear she means business. It turns out Riley's been on the move for years, using different names, fighting in MMA, honing her skills. Now that it's the 5-year anniversary of her family's murder, she's not holding back. Riley ensures Stevens remembers her, revealing that the rope he's tied with is rigged to explode. After leaving him with a toy from her childhood, she detonates it, blowing him to bits. Stan soon gets a call that both the judge and the district attorney are dead. The scene shifts to a warehouse where Diego is informed about the murders. Furious, he instructs his men to take out Riley. On the bus, Riley meets a young boy and gives him a toy she snagged from Steven's place. She notices the boy's father, who's drunk, and as they step off the bus, he stumbles into a liquor store, leaving his son outside. Riley steps in, pistol whips the dad, and warns him to shape up, then forces the store clerk to hand over his car while giving him some cash in return. Meet Marvin, one of Diego's goons, and our main guy Riley is stealthily observing. Disguised and hiding near a piñata shop, she takes out the two guards at the entrance without breaking a sweat. Once inside, she watches the gangsters, who are busy counting their cash and totally clueless about her presence. Riley sneaks upstairs and finds a group of them in a room, breaking the door handle to trap them inside. A shootout kicks off, and as some of the gangsters scatter, she takes aim and picks them off with precision. She's on fire with her marksmanship, taking them out left and right until only Marvin is left standing. Riley interrogates him, forcing him to spill the beans about Diego's operations. Marvin heads back to Diego to report what happened, but it's revealed that he didn't make it out alive for talking to Riley. Diego, sensing that Riley is after their lab, sets up a trap to lure her into their warehouse. Meanwhile, Riley is already at the warehouse, prepping her gun. Outside, the detectives are checking high-crime areas, and social media is buzzing in support of Riley after hearing her story. As she steps into the warehouse, she spots a bomb trap set by the gangsters. Realizing she's been made, she bolts just as the place explodes behind her, the gangsters hoping to wipe her out in one go. Riley escapes through the sewers and steals a car, determined to track down the gang who think they've gotten rid of her. They report back to Diego, pleased that the job is done, but little do they know, Riley is hot on their heels. Detective Emmons suspects she might be hiding in a certain area and chats with a local who mentions the crime rate has dropped because of an angel, which is a reference to Riley's vigilante actions. Riley drives past the gangsters, waiting for the perfect moment before launching an attack. After taking out a few of them and getting some info, she makes her way to Diego's house. She bursts in and starts taking out more guys at the entrance, using their own vehicles against them. She doesn't let up, moving through the house and continuing to eliminate anyone who gets in her way as she searches for Diego. Eventually, she finds him and they have a standoff. Just when she's about to pull the trigger, Diego's daughter, who looks around the same age as Carly when she died, walks in. This gives Diego a chance to stab Riley in the side before he and his crew make a run. Despite being injured, she tries to pursue them, but ultimately decides to head to Peg's house. Once there, Riley punches Peg and then ties her up, letting her know that her husband left her for someone else. Riley threatens to burn down Peg's house with her still inside, leaving her tied up before driving off. Back at Diego's house, the police are on the scene, and Beltran is frustrated because Stan isn't answering his calls. Stan finally shows up, having discovered Riley's van loaded with weapons. He tells Beltran they're going to set up surveillance to catch her alive, but Stan reveals he's on the wrong side of the law and shoots a dead body. He contacts Diego to let him know he has info on Riley's location. Weak from her injuries, Riley collapses but hears her daughter, Carly, calling her, which gives her the strength to keep going. She takes out a gangster and gets his pistol as the search for her continues. When they get close, she makes her move and shoots them down. Diego tries to call his men over the walkie-talkie, but Riley intercepts, warning them to leave the neighborhood alone. The FBI tries to reach Emmett on the phone, but no one answers. Riley grabs the phone and starts a live stream, exposing both Stan and Diego for the dirty players they are. Beltran sees this and heads to the location to catch up with. Diego uses a walkie-talkie to call Riley out, threatening to harm a little girl if she doesn't come out. In a tense standoff, Riley surrenders, pleading with Diego to let the girl go. She thanks him for saving her, but then mocks him, taunting him about how poorly he fights. Just then, the police show up, and in the chaos, Diego shoots Stan, thinking he's betrayed him. Beltran finds Stan dead and goes after Diego, who runs into Riley. She tackles him to the ground and holds him at gunpoint. Beltran and the other agents arrive, and he begs Riley not to shoot Diego, insisting they can handle it. But Diego, never one to back down, taunts Riley, pushing her buttons until she pulls the trigger, killing him. The police return fire, but Riley manages to slip away, disappearing into the night. After an extensive search with no sign of her, Beltran figures out where she's gone. The police find Riley at the cemetery, at the graves of Chris and Carly. She breaks down, overwhelmed with emotion, as Beltran approaches, and she feels ready to give up. He calls for an ambulance, and soon Riley is in the hospital. Beltran visits Riley in the hospital and tells her she deserves a medal for taking out gangsters and exposing corrupt cops. He discreetly slips her the key to her handcuffs, giving her a chance to escape. And that's how the story wraps up.